Because I'm putting a book together called Young Ella and the Raw Haynes book. Of the stuff over. I'm going into more detail on it.
Hey, look, you know what's out cold? Motherfuckers be talking about, I remember a lot of stuff. All this shit come from Baba, Elijah Muhammad, Noble Drew Ali, and the government.
Yeah. This is a good one right here. And the same people was building those igloos, with the ice.
Yeah, but they also got teepees. They also got nomadic tents that they carried around with them that wasn't so big. And those are the ones that they said was our teepees.
And it was only for traveling, right? For these people that traveled when they were traveling, going to battle people.
Right. Because all of the Huns and the Mongols were nomads. They was always on the go. They didn't set up farming camps.
They call it a jir, also called Ura, is a Mongoloid yurk. Is a Mongoloid tent home. Imagine living in a home that looked like a piece of candy, a Hershey's Kiss, but it's 9 feet height, 15 feet round. Actually, a jir might look rather odd, but they were very comfortable. So it's the Mongoloid. Let me blow it.
So they can fold their house up and leave at any given time. All right, let's get back to the business at hand. We can go back to that later on. We're gonna pull up a TP from over there, in Asian TP.
Okay.
All right, so the Dawes Commission set up tents in Indian territory. Right, this is somebody named Bill Welch, Director Emeritus of the Oklahoma Historical Society Office of American Indian Culture and Preservation.
Dang, hold up. I don't want it to freeze up while we're doing it. Hold up. There you go. My bad. There you go.
Okay. It's their field clerks scoured written records. Scroll down. Okay. Took oral testimony. Remember, we do everything orally anyway.
Yeah.
And generated enrollment cards for individuals determined to have Indian blood. Now, remember, they didn't have blood tests back then.
Yeah.
How the fuck they know who got Indian blood?
Right.
Yeah, keep that in mind because they make it sound like they could just run a blood test like they can now, pull your DNA and say, oh, you Chickasaw, you Choctaw, you Cherokee, you Ojibwe, right? They couldn't do that back then. So look what they're doing. They took oral testimony and scoured written record.
Yeah.
Right? All right, now, that's good. That included authentic Indians. How they know they're authentic?
They're right. Yeah.
They declaring them authentic under the Dawes Roll. But it also included lots of people with questionable heritage. And you see it, and they already know this shit that I'm telling y'all. So this is not a secret. Commissioners took advantage of their positions and enrolled people who had very minimal or questionable connections to the tribes. They were not adverse to taking money under the table. What you say?
What you say?
You say? They can't be doing that. Look at this eight. Index to final rolls of citizens and freed men of the 5 civilized tribes in Indian territory, prepared by the commission and commissioner. Biggie Smalls, the commission. American Indian removal policy and the Trail of Tears. Now we're getting good. Andrew Jackson policy led to a shameful episode in U.S. history. And this is who we talking about.
The nigga on a $20 bill. That's why I don't like 20s, man. That's why I don't like 20s right there. I don't like 20s.
Well, I spend the shit out the motherfuckers. I don't plan on putting nothing up in no frame, no way. All right, now look. The American Indian removal policy of President Andrew Jackson was prompted by the desire of so-called white settlers in the South to expand into lands belonging to the 5 indigenous tribes. After Jackson succeeded in pushing the Indian Removal Act through Congress in 1830, the U.S. government spent nearly 30 years forcing indigenous people to move westward beyond the Mississippi River. This is the Trail of Tears.
Exactly. That's what we talking about.
But that's gonna come back up because that's part of the biblical contract.
Mm-hmm.
In the most notorious example of this policy, more than 15,000 members of the Cherokee tribes were forced to walk from their homes in southern states to a designated territory in present-day Oklahoma in 1838. Now, this is before the Dawes Roll.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Damn.
Many died along the way. The forced relocation became known as the Trail of Tears because of the great hardship faced by Cherokees. In brutal conditions, nearly 4,000 Cherokee died on the Trail of Tears. Mm-hmm. Go back up and look how long this took place. Look how long this was going on. Go back up.
Go back up right here.
Right there. They spent nearly 30 years forcing indigenous people to move westward beyond the Mississippi.
Man.
Right? Now, where do this happen? Somewhere in the Bible. Don't this happen somewhere in the Bible? Somebody was traveling around for 30, 40 years because they ain't had no homeland.
The Israelites.
Where was they coming from?
They were coming from ancient Kemet.
Mm-hmm. Who was they following?
Who they following? Moses.
Okay, and Elijah Muhammad said Moses did what?
Go ahead. I can't remember.
Elijah Muhammad said Moses was the one that was sent to civilize the so-called pale man.
Yeah, okay, yeah, to put the boat. Yeah, go ahead. Okay, I'm with you.
Remember, he said Moses had to sleep in the ring of fire because they were so savage they might eat him in his sleep.
Right. Go ahead. That's right.
Right? Yeah. Now, in here is 30 years. The biblical stories say 40 years.
Okay.
So it's a 40-year sojourn.
Okay.
Right. So this 30 years take us to 1860, 40 years take us to 1870, about 12 years before the Dawes Roll Act.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So from 1830 to the Dawes Roll, okay, go over to Google and pull Dawes Roll up again. We got to get the exact year again.
I got you. Boom. We hitting it. This is sticky. Man, bro.
What you pulling up? I can't see that.
I'm pulling up the Dawes Roll, but it like my shit was sticking. Don't let me type in. There you go, right here. It's the year is 1898. Hold on. Let me go back. Just find out. Okay. The Dawes Roll, also known as the Final Roll, are listed individuals who accepted eligible tribe membership in the 5 indigenous tribes: Cherokee, Creek, Choctaw, Chickasaw, and Seminole. It does not include those whose application was stricken, rejected, or judged to be doubtful. Probably some dark-skinned people, right? Real Indians tried to file, and they got shot down, right? Those found eligible for the Final Roll were entitled to we just had read that, right? Allotments of land, usually as a homestead.
Mm-hmm.
The roll contain more than 101,000 names from 1898 to 1914, primarily from 18.
Okay, we just looking for the year right now, Elder. The year that it was passed again. So you go back to the main page. The year shouldn't be hard to find. It should be right there.
Right here. Okay, I got it. Hold up. I got you. It's the year is 1893.
Okay, so from 1830 to 1893, that's further than 40 years of sojourn waiting to have a reservation.
Yeah.
Right, actually 63 years, ain't it?
Yeah. It says from 1893 all the way up into it's a long time. Hold up.
I thought it was first passed in the 1880s.
Hold up, let me make sure this right here is right. It says right here 1893. So hold up. What year? Okay. 1887 is the date.
Okay. Now that's more closer to the date I was thinking.
All right. The 1880.
So that's 47 years still, though. That's the 40-year sojourn of the so-called Israelites.
Yeah.
Now, this is, now remember, while this is going on, the Indian Removal Act, right? They marching across the land, but they're supposed to be coming from the South.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody that know basic American history know that the South was about 90% melanated us.
Mm-hmm.
So where did these pale people come from in the South?
Exactly.
They couldn't have been there. So we gonna go to where they come from in the next one. We just reviewing Dawes Road now, right? So scroll down. Let's read some more. There have been conflicts between whites and indigenous people since the first so-called white settlers arrived in North America, but in the early 1800s, the issue had come down to the so-called white settlers encroaching on the indigenous lands in the southern United States. Now, here go the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Go back to Martin Luther King, talking about the mechanizing of the farms. Right? Now, he's telling you what was going on during this period right here. This is the period of time he's talking about when they began to mechanize the farms, and they hired us to teach the so-called settlers how to farm the land. All of the indigenous people know that we had to teach the people that came to the land how to farm because none of them knew how to work the unique land that was over here better than we did. Right? Now, 5 indigenous tribes were located on land. Notice they specify on land that would be highly sought for settlement. Especially as was prime land for the cultivation of cotton. The tribes on the land were the Cherokee, Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, and Seminole. Right? Over time, the tribes in the South tended to adopt the so-called white ways, such as taking up farming in the tradition of white settlers, which they didn't, we taught them how to farm. This is a known historical fact that all of us know without even asking who taught the so-called pale people how to farm. Remember the Mayflower came, they was dying of starvation because they didn't know how to cultivate food.
That's right.
Right. So in some cases, even buying and owning enslaved black people. They got to throw that in there, right?
They had to put that off in there.
I like that right there. Okay. In fact, settlers hungry for land were actually dismayed to see these tribes, contrary to all the grotesque propaganda about them being savages, adopted the farming practices of white Americans.
Yeah,
this don't even make sense. This is not even possible.
Yeah, right.
Right. But this is the story, the narrative they're giving us. So we're gonna work with it. The accelerated desire to relocate indigenous people to the West was a consequence of the election of Andrew Jackson in 1828. Jackson had a long, complicated history with indigenous tribes, having grown up in frontier settlements where stories of attacks by them were common. Right? Now, before we go any further, so the question on Haile Selassie and the relation to Enlil. Right? Now, remember Baba did that scroll called Is Haile Selassie the Christ?
Yeah.
And you remember he went through his whole genealogy in there, and he went back like a long way back.
Yeah.
Right? So why did Pops do that?
Go ahead.
You got to know Haile Selassie.
Okay. Yeah, that's right.
If he want us, the children of Enlil.
Yeah.
Right? They looking for a homeland on Earth. We ain't giving them shit. If y'all trace back far enough, y'all might been related distant relatives.
The grandmom looks like my grandma, who you're talking about, baby Olivia. So my grandmom is her name was Madeline, and all I know about our history is my grandma was born in the mountains of West Virginia, And my mom used to tell me, like, my grandma used to say stories how her and her brother used to swing off the trees and stuff. And I always felt like we never came nowhere else. Like, we always been here. Even when I was little, I used to feel like this. Like, I didn't come nowhere else before any of this. And when my mom used to tell me the stories about my grandma, I'm like, and I remember what she looked like, Rod, the beautiful dark skin she would have, but like the straight hair, I remember. And I was young, you know, so I didn't remember asking her a lot of stories, but it was one incident where I was on a lot of drugs and I was ready to go. Like, I was really ready to go. And I remember laying in a bed and she came to me. And I said, if it's you, squeeze my hand. And she squeezed my hand. So that's why I always knew it was another side. It was never like, you know how they say you die and that's it. It's another side, because she came back and she saved me so I wouldn't do that. I think I was like 21.
So 21 is the 3 7s. That's what you call a 2-bar cane master knock off a father line. It's the father's mother line knock to you, right? So when she came, it was a redemption process in waking you up or making you aware that this ain't it. Right now, since then, you don't even know it, but you've been doing the work. You just don't know what you've been doing. But when you look back on it, right, the big deal, though, is your baby godmama.
You know that, right? Because I look at the grandma I'm sitting on. So I'm in the business. I work for New Jersey Transit. I've been there 14 years. I drive a bus for the public. But I also have a passion. I do a life insurance. And I just remember going to the grandma house and I'm like, I gave her personal money, but I wish I could have brought something that I know could help them. You know what I mean? Like a bigger check, you know, that can help them. And I just remember seeing her on the couch and I'm like, she looked like my grandma. Like she could be the sister of my grandmother.
Yeah. So yeah, this is very, very, very tribal. And it's very, very, very rooted in nature and in balancing the energies. Right. So when you ask the lady to be your daughter grandmama, she gonna be overwhelmed with joy. That's gonna raise her frequency so she can heal.
Yeah. Yeah. What a good night. I hold on to this call. You have no idea. The percentage on my phone was at 42 for almost an hour. I said, he's going to put me in because there's no way it's still at 42. And it was like an hour. Down it's going down. But like an hour ago it was at 42. I'm like, why is it holding on? And I'm listening to the young women coming in and they're just encouraging. I'm like, don't be afraid, Denise. Don't be afraid. You got this.
So 42 is 2 4s. That's a 44 angel knot.
It held on for a whole hour. I'm like, okay. Every time I looked up, 42. Yeah. I'm like, oh.
An hour is 60 minutes. 60 is GO. It's an affirmative pass to go ahead and proceed.
All right. The last thing I got. I have this overwhelming sense of the end is near, and everybody around me thinking your head. So everybody around me is like freaking out because they think I'm talking death. But part of me is like, it's not the death that y'all think, but I feel like this overwhelming sense of the end is near. Can you?
That message was for me. This work that I'm doing, one of the sisters have to tell me or give me the clue as to when it's closing out. I can read the signs and I can see it's closing, but the confirmation comes through the sisters.
and you've reached all the way to Pleasantville, South Jersey, Atlantic City, and I'm like, this overwhelming feeling of like, it's about to close. Like the end is really near. Like it almost, I don't want to say scary, but it almost feels as like, so what you saying? I'm like, what you saying, God? Like, but he's like, no, you not.